Great. It does show us live, so I'm just going to double check here. Give this a second to refresh and be sure that it's showing up on our end.
Okay.
Perfect. I do see us, and I will go ahead and get us kicked off. It looks like some folks are already back to tuning in with us. Good morning, afternoon, evening. Thank you so much for engaging on our broadcast today. These are candidate interviews. They're one-on-one opportunities for us to get to know these candidates that are seeking our city council seats. These seats are coming up for election here in November. Over the next several days, you'll be receiving your ballots, and we want you to be mindful of these candidates, get an interest in learning more about them, why they're seeking office, etc. So all campaigns have been invited to both today's session and even next Thursday. Next Thursday is a candidate forum, and the main difference is that today is a virtual opportunity. It's one-on-one. They're interview style questions. They're random questions. There may be some similarity between one to the next, but I try and overall change it up from candidates so that way it's not giving the latter ones an unfair advantage as opposed to ones that started at the start. The forum that's next Thursday is different because one, it's branded as a forum, so obviously there's a difference. The difference is the questions that are asked to these candidates are more in-depth. They're rapid fire questions. They're specifically asked to each of the candidates fairly and evenly. They don't have it ahead of time just as today, so they're not prepping or know what to respond to. They're responding how they would to an immediate situation that comes up. We do that by design so we can know their genuine feedback on those issues that are coming forward. That is an in-person session over at City Hall. It will be recorded. It will be streamed later on if you cannot make it in person, but we sure do hope that you do attend, that you take the time to learn more, and that you even hit the share button on this video so others in your network can see that we're live, can join us, and can learn more about these candidates and just be informed voters all around. So I've got Tim with me, and Tim, thank you for being on here. Let's just jump right into it. Why do you want to become a city councilor?
Sure. So I want to run for city council to help ensure that Westminster is welcoming to individuals and families at all stages of life. Some of the things that I hear when I'm out campaigning are about the high cost of housing, worries about community safety, and a desire for an improvement to our parks and open space. I think I can address all three of these things. So I used to be on the board of directors of a creative makerspace in Boulder. We were faced with some challenges with high rent ourselves, but we were ultimately able to find creative business solutions to welcome new members and allow the organization to adapt to change. I also work as an engineer, so that means I take some time to understand my clients' goals. Then I help them understand all the trade-offs in the design process. And finally, I guide them to the best solution with their goals in mind. And I'm optimistic that we can invest in community safety, improve our parks and open space, and work on the high cost of housing here in Westminster. And we can do it with solutions that are backed by evidence. We can do it in a way that protects taxpayers, ensures sustainability, and makes Westminster an even better place to live.
And outside of the specific example of the housing, can you share any additional examples around inclusivity and maybe the lack thereof in the community that you feel that needs to be addressed?
Sure. So on the community safety front, I heard from someone in the LGBT community who felt that the police department is not taking harassment of LGBTQ folks seriously. And I think we can work on that in a way that doesn't involve pointing fingers, but just says, here are the facts, and here are some solutions to address it.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the skills that you feel you possess that you can apply into the role as city councilor?
Like I said, I'm pretty adept at balancing different constraints. Cities have short-term needs, long-term needs, and we have practical constraints as well. There's a bigger world outside that we don't have much control over. And basically balancing those things, right? Like we can make short-term budget decisions to save money that may not be the best decision in the long term. On the other hand, the best long-term decision may not always be palatable in the short term, or it may be too slow to achieve a desirable outcome. And figuring out which solution or set of solutions appropriately addresses all three of those things is kind of something I do in my day-to-day work. And I think it's the most important skill set I have for city council.
How do you feel you can balance the voices of the many in our community and be fair in the process of doing so?
I think the most important part of that is taking the time to listen, right? I've been out knocking doors, I've been at community events, and I always ask people, what do you want to see from your city?
Mm-hmm.
And uh, I have been surprised by some of the things I have heard. But their voices count too, even if I don't immediately agree with them. There may be still ways to address folks' concerns without straying too far from the kind of principles that I really care about.
Mm-hmm. Now, you shared with us a little bit about your time up in Boulder and even your role being an engineer, et cetera. Are you from Colorado? Are you a transplant here? Can you tell us a little bit about who Tim is if I was just getting to know you?
Sure. I'm a transplant here. I moved here in 2005, so 18 years ago. And I got a degree from CU Boulder in physics. I went on from studying to working in industry at a firm that makes satellite parts in Longmont. And then I found a job at a larger firm here in Westminster, and that's what prompted me to move here.
What is your definition of integrity?
Gosh. I guess I haven't really thought about that explicitly, but I would say integrity means, in some ways, saying what you mean, meaning what you say, and additionally, if you find out you're wrong, owning it,
Mhm.
and trying to make the best of a non-ideal situation.
And here's a question that is almost spun off of strengths and weaknesses. What is something that you're really good at, but also something you're really bad at? So,
Something I am really good at, honestly, my work. I'm an electrical engineer. Um, yeah, I'm really good at that. As far as hobbies, I'm okay at woodworking. Something I'm really bad at, drawing. I cannot draw to save my life.
can you give me an example of a time that you have given like a super successful presentation and what that was?
Um, sure. A while back, I was asked to um, basically design an antenna for a NASA satellite for a proposal. We did not win the proposal, but it was a really hard design. And at least for my part of it, I managed to meet all the requirements that the customer was asking for. It was a pretty simple thing. It was 10 slides, but um, it was really satisfying to hear that they liked the electrical side of the design, that it met all the mission requirements, even if we didn't win the contract.
And if I were to ask you, looking ahead 3 years out, because you've got that magical ball in your hand, what would Westminster look like then, in your perfect world?
In my perfect world, I would say we'd have a little bit more variety of housing. It's hard for senior citizens to downsize. I've in fact had a couple senior citizens ask me while I'm talking to them if there's anywhere they can move to in Westminster that's smaller than their current home. Um, so a little more variety there. I think one option for that might be accessory dwelling units. I'd like more variety in food. I'd like to see a bigger variety of restaurants. Um, and I'd like to be able to bike to more places. We have a huge bike network here in Westminster. It's about 150 miles of trail, but it's not well connected to businesses, though it is well connected to neighborhoods. And I think I see some opportunities to improve that.
Now, why did you choose to run for city council and not any of the other previous positions that might be out there to serve our community?
So I'm not aware of any board openings this year. Perhaps I just missed it. Um, and I didn't hear early on in the campaign season. I didn't hear um, anyone else speaking in the same way about issues that I would like to see them addressed. And, I thought I could do it.
Well, believe it or not, we're already at the 10-minute mark. I would have tried to condense and fit in, but then I feel like I'm being unfair to everyone else that I've cut off. So thank you for being on here, Tim, with me to get to know you briefly virtually. We're excited to, of course, have you plugged in into this platform and hopefully able to see you, of course, next week at our candidate forums. And I want to thank all of you that are tuned in with us for being on here. Of course, if you had comments or questions, you can always type them into the chat. Be sure to refresh this page here momentarily because we are jumping from one candidate over to the next. And Tim, I will give you the rest of your morning and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.